What are you thinking about? Does anybody remember that old commercial?
No.
It was like a Rosetta
Dr.
Stone
Scratch
commercial, and it's a guy like in a submarine, and they're like, "Help! Help! We're sinking! We're sinking!" And the guy goes, "What are you thinking about?" And then it just goes, "Rosetta Stone. You should learn languages."
Learn languages.
It's like a
That's not a language. That's a
10-second
dialect.
It's like a 10-second commercial that used to go on the internet. I love
That's
it.
great.
amazing.
I love it's like they both are speaking the same language.
It's like that was
an
English and that was English.
Yeah.
Okay. Lasercorn has just left you. Is that a googly eye on his chair?
It looks like a giant googly eye.
So
It's only
a
one.
googly eye clops.
I hope the other one is on his back.
Oh my god. Hey, Lasercorn, stand up and turn around. Give us a
Why?
little twirl. I want to see if there's
I
a
have
googly eye
Where's
on
the
your
other
back.
eye?
Oh yeah, the other eye has escaped. I don't know. It's roaming
With
around.
that, hi everyone, and welcome to the OGSoG podcast. OGSoG Podcast Mafia. Are you not recording?
I
that was a
hear
great cold
things.
open. Oh.
No, I'm recording. I hear.
Do you hear
things.
me? Because that's the thing you should hear.
No, I think it was my games turning on that I just turned on so that they look cool.
I
in
love
the
it when
background.
Lasercorn gets
okay.
freaked out about sounds that he hears and he has to announce it.
I hear things. Good. Hi, welcome to the OGSoG podcast, where we do Podcast Mafia. We've got a special guest here with us today. Say hi, Elise.
Hey.
I said
Hello.
say hi, Elise, and Mari wooed. It was not
I'm
the.
hyping her up.
I got a hype man.
Yeah.
I also said hello, which I was welcoming her here. I wasn't thinking I was Elise.
And
I'm like the Mighty Mighty Boss Stones, where I need a guy that's just, he's not doing anything other than hyping me up.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, like Flavor Flav.
Elise.
yeah.
You should see what Flavor Flav's doing. He
of
might-
all of our
he might
backgrounds, I
take that
think I
job.
like Elise's the most. Hers, for
Oh,
those
thank
watching
you.
on YouTube, that is just it's a nice setup. It looks organized. I'm a little jealous.
It's a lot of junk. It's all my wares and things, you know.
My wares and my collections.
I have a Muppet dedicated shelf right here.
Oh, we should talk more about that too. Okay, there's a lot to talk with you about in this episode today. But before we go into that, I just want to mention, hi, I'm Jovenshire. We've got Lasercorn here and Mari. So Hinky's recording, I think, some Texas Chainsaw live streams or something. So
We'll never stop playing that.
yeah, no, he's a loser. That's fine.
They'll shut the servers down.
Yeah,
He'll
they'll
go
have
down
to
with
come
them.
back to us. But here on this podcast, we like to just talk about a lot of stuff from gaming, movie, TV shows, just things that make us excited and happy in life. But we add a little game of Mafia to it, and through each round, each discussion, someone will die, and then we find out who it is, and then we dole out points, or we'll dole out points.
Well, the killer kills with a phrase in this game.
Yeah,
so
there is a
the killer
phrase
will
that
receive
slays.
3 phrases, and one will kill each of the other guests. And
phrase
they'll
that
choose
slays.
one. The phrase that slays. It's fun. You'll see.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, this is just a portion of the show. We have the full video version on Patreon. We have a link down to that where we have extended episodes of all of our different videos. Or you can listen to the entire episode on Spotify or Apple Music now. I think there's a lot more places to listen to this podcast. So if you get a chance, go give it a like, give it a review. A review helps a lot. Go do that thing. Unless you don't like it, then, yell it into a saucepan and then put that saucepan in the oven and then never open up your oven again.
That is quite the analogy. It just kept going.
Isn't that what you guys do when you get angry?
They put it in the oven. I sell my house.
Now these are your problems. Well, so back to our special guest. Hi, Elise. We've known you for quite a little bit of time now. You've been on a bunch of different podcasts and shows and doing a bunch of different things. Tell us what you're up to these days.
So I'm still with Funhouse. I think we're having a bit of a renaissance because we went through the pandemic, cast changes, all kinds of stuff. And now we have this new crew and we're back in the studio. And don't take it from me, but take it from our subreddit. I think we're making some really, really great, funny stuff. And
The fact that you have a great subreddit means you're doing everything right. I think that's how one is determined if they are doing good.
That's awesome because the actual Renaissance came after a plague, and your Renaissance kind of comes post-COVID. It's like a literal Renaissance.
Well, history lesson there.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Wait. Was the Renaissance before or after the plague?
I don't know.
There were just so many plagues.
There for a
like
while,
there were
yeah.
14th, 15th century plagues. There were, 17th. There were so many plagues. So I guess
Good point. Which
maybe
plague?
one plague.
Yeah, I'm sure it came after one plague. Thank you. Thank you for giving me some historical leeway there.
We are always after just one plague, so.
Yeah.
Well, it's also that Renaissance has to happen at some point in a long-standing career, right? Like how long has Funhouse been around now?
Funhouse started in 2015. And so it's been through a bunch of iterations, ups and downs. And it's interesting. I've heard people years ago quote it as a 10-year brand. And yeah, it's a very, very corporate speak way of talking about it. But I do feel like there is this new energy in it. I think you guys more than anything understand this. You're now together as a unit doing something new. And there's a shift and like a revitalization to it sometimes. And sometimes you just need that one element.
It comes from the industry changing. It comes from just people growing or bonds becoming stronger. And we're actually going to talk a lot more about that in our first topic. But before we go there, let's see. We've got two new projects for you. We have 30 Morbid Minutes and All Good No Worries.
Yeah, 30 Morbid Minutes is sort of a weird passion project that maybe people didn't expect coming from me because I am a big horror fan. Thank you. It was originally 60 minutes, and then I started working on scripts, and I was like, I cannot do 60 minutes.
You're like, you're halfway done. You're like, and we're back.
Yeah. My co-host Jessica Basami and I, we take a morbid topic or a person or a place or a thing and sort of run the gamut on this subject or try to approach it from a weird and strange way, depending on what the topic calls for. So we might cover deaths at Disneyland, or we might talk about the Victorian obsession with death and dying, or death on cruise ships, or the morbid nature of time.
There's enough death on cruise ships to do a 30-minute thing?
They have a morgue, right?
Yes, Mari. Yeah, most of them, like depending on the size, you have to have a certain number of like freezers in the event that somebody dies on your cruise ship, and there are all these protocols on ships where they have key phrases and things. If there's a death on board, I think it's Operation Rising Star is what the cabin would say to alert the crew that this has happened.
I don't like that name.
And so we we just look into the weeds of, or maybe a topic that you wouldn't even think has a morbid slant to it. We look into that and explore it and talk about it. And
can you give us like a nugget of your favorite one that you've talked about so far?
Oh, I love Victorian era stories. So something like Scheele's green wallpaper, which was the arsenic-based wallpaper that was invented, but it was it was poisoning everyone without their knowledge because they were breathing in the off-gassing of this poison. I love anything to do with like people secretly not knowing that they were like privy to their own demise. So also there's this thing called haunted house syndrome, which is where you might think that you have ghosts in your home, but it's really probably a carbon monoxide leak.
No.
And
Wait a second.
there's
I think I should check something.
Jobin oftentimes thinks that he lives in a haunted house.
Yeah, everywhere I go, I'm like, this is haunted. Oh, this is haunted.
Whole time just carbon monoxide.
Well, there are definitely stories of people from like the Victorian era who really didn't. They were feeling sick or they were seeing things, and then they left their home for an extended period of time and were like, oh my gosh, my home was poisoning me.
It's cursed.
Like that kind of stuff. I'm that person that goes down Reddit rabbit holes at like 2 a.m.
Oh man.
Where I'm like, oh, I got on this. Yeah.
I understand that.
My wife started listening to this podcast. Maybe you've heard of. It's called National Parks After Dark.
No.
And oh my God.
That sounds great, though.
You're going to love this because it's all about morbid horrible stories that happened, like in like search and rescues, or like people who got lost only a mile away from the campground, but like grisly things happen because they're trying to survive because they think they're like deep in the wilderness.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Oh
man.
no.
Yeah, every night she's like, "Can I tell you a story?" And I was like, "No, please don't, please don't."
Oh no.
It never ends well.
I do that to my husband James, but with celebrity deaths. Like he to the point where he criticizes me for it because it'll be 8 a.m. on a Wednesday, and I'm just like like I don't know, someone who died recently. I'm blanking on it, but
Tina Turner died yesterday,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it would be
at
like
the time of this recording.
8 a.m. He's lying next to me. His eyes are still closed, and I'm like, Tina Turner's dead. And he's like, why'd you wake me up with that?
It's like, did she die naturally or did
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah.
It's like, is this a
If the deed is
statement or an
done.
exclamation?
It's like, was that a confession or news?
At first, I thought this is the best way for him to hear it from me gently before he opens his phone and sees it, but apparently not.
And speaking of James, you and James missed, not in a mean way, but you guys missed Lasercorn and I's birthday party because you were still playing Legend of Zelda, I think.
No, I'm so
were
sorry.
hungover?
No, James.
It's a good excuse though.
Yeah.
Perfectly
Funhouse-
okay excuse.
Yeah, Funhouse did a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Beers of the Kingdom drunk stream.
That's just
And-
a good name.
Yeah, that's
did-
great.
Yeah, they did like 15 shots, and and sometimes when you do those like streams where you're doing this at 2 p.m., you don't get hungover the same way where you wake up at 8 a.m. You wake up at like 2 in the morning screaming. And so he's not a heavy drinker regularly, so he was just messed up the next day, and he's like, I'm sorry. Tell
Hey,
Joe-
Lasercorn, I have an idea
Lasercorn.
for a video. Hear me out.
Wow,
15 shots.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like alcohol hits you. I don't know how old are you guys, if that's not an offensive question.
No, I'm 37
James.
and he's 39.
I'm
So
39 too. I cannot drink like I used to at all.
No.
Like me and Joven have had to enact like a 2-drink maximum rule.
It's why we had an afternoon birthday party so that, we wouldn't drink too much.
He specifically had it in the afternoon. He's like, it's going to be afternoon. I don't want anyone getting crazy.
It was
yeah,
strategic.
We did have a terrible dual birthday incident where there was some people throwing up and stuff. And
Each one of us
so
who left.
I like how you put it on
I
other
get
people.
it.
People were throwing up, but you two were
didn't-
blackout drunk.
I did not throw up that night. I did not throw up the night of the dual birthday party disaster.
Wait, how long ago
I
was
even
this?
threw up in the cab. Not
2018?
cab, in my lift on the way back. He threw up literally with me and my wife in the lift with him. But I did not.
That's how you get closer as friends.
Yeah, maybe when I got home. I don't know.
Ironically enough, after that birthday, we were like, never again are we having a birthday. We are old enough. And it took us a couple of years, and we decided to do it one more time. But hey, so today we're doing some OGSoG Podcast Mafia. I do want to jump into our first topic, where producer Paco is going to start messaging us if we are the gruesome OGSoG monster or if we're just a measly mortal. And today's topic is we hinted towards it a little bit. Elise, I feel like your rise on YouTube was around the same time our rise was happening on YouTube. In fact, I think there would be a lot of comparisons also with some of the content that we were making and the content that you guys were making, because
Arguably, you guys rose much higher.
well, we had
would say.
we had
But
some
then we fell
coattails.
much
Riding on the
farther.
tail.
I think we've evened out. I think we've evened out.
Yeah, we had some decent coattails, which was fun. But at the time, it was all about ensemble casts, and there was a specific almost equation to what made channels successful in the gaming space at the time. And I want to look at that versus how we're doing it now, though maybe success is different now, it has a different definition, or just in general what you see with other successful YouTubers on what is needed now in the gaming space to stand out as a content creator. So, shall we jump into the secret sauce of what made people successful in just gaming content creation? Mari, would you like to kick us off?
Oh, sure. I can kick it off. I mean, I think it's like nowadays, I don't envy folks coming in now versus how it was back then. Even though now there are tools telling you like exactly how to do everything. There's so many tutorials, and I'm not really sure why I jump into like watching tutorials of like how to start a YouTube like all the time.
It's like, has it changed? I need to know.
I think I just have a morbid curiosity of like what is the like secret? Because I feel like way back then we didn't really have these strategies that are being put forth these days of how to like make a successful brand and things like that. It was like we were just putting out whatever we wanted out there, and there was no road path. There was no sort of like given like textbook on how to do it. It was the Wild West. Like we didn't really know how things would work. But I think if anything, we were taking bits and pieces of what we knew, whether subconsciously or consciously, works. And in a lot of ways, like with group channels, I think
ensemble casts, if you will.
Ensemble cast, thank you.
Ensemble.
I mean, there's so many parallels to television and the way that television characters are cast. I think like it just so happens that we kind of fell into these roles. But I think that's another reason why chemistry was such a huge part of a lot of like early folks who landed on YouTube. It was just this like, it was oozing out of a place of like not really understanding it from a marketing perspective, but more so of what felt like natural. And I hate the word organic because it's just thrown out there a lot. But it's true. I don't know. Nowadays, I feel like it's a lot more manufactured.
Would you say that maybe a lot of successful brands at the time or channels at the time, they just weren't trying, versus now, because there's so many rules, you have to try?
I don't know if it's a matter of trying or not trying, but I do think that there's more intention behind it. And I don't know. Maybe that is good if there's intention. But the other way was just kind of like it's almost like magic. Like I think we always talk about when you work with folks and it doesn't feel like work, there's just a certain chemistry magic. You can't really like pinpoint it. And I don't know.
With that completely. You get in there and you tap your lands and you produce that mana. It's just like magic.
Just like magic.
I also feel like to what you're saying, Mari, we saw this swing around. You're saying now things feel a bit more manufactured. And I think you hit the nail on the head with it went from being more traditional media where it was like a manufactured ensemble to then groups organically and authentically coming up on their own. And now it's kind of doing this swing back around a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like casting for like a Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Like group.
Those chemistry tests. What about with like Funhouse? How is rising with that channel?
Well, I think that comes from a place too where almost everybody involved with I was like the first hire to Funhouse after they came from Machinima. Mm-hmm. So it was 7 guys that started at Machinima, and then they brought me on shortly after they went to Rooster Teeth. But that came from a place too of almost everyone was from a traditional form of media. So television or some type of like traditional production where maybe you were working as a producer behind the scenes, or you were a host of a show, or you were in the infancy of a lot of these traditional channels starting to move into online entertainment. So like game trailers, for example, I originally worked on GTTV and then moved over to the website once that show sunset.
Is that where we met you? Was it at GTTV?
Well, by that time I was just game trailers owned by Defy.
Yeah.
So we were all at Defy.
We're all hanging out there. That cold office.
And I mean, I think everybody at Game Trailers looked at Smosh and was like, "Oh, these are like the superstars. We are the, kind of humble."
Sure, those were nicer words. I would have just assumed you guys thought we were the assholes that were making way too much noise down the hallway.
No, I think we looked at it from a point of like, oh, those people are too cool for us. Like,
really? That's funny. We totally looked at, well, me at least, I'm like, oh man, they're the actual people that know about video games.
You guys were video game journalism, and we were idiots.
I viewed us as like the fake nerds, and I'm like, those are the guys that know what they're talking about when they talk about.
It's like they're too busy. Don't talk to them. Just leave them alone. Don't leave them alone.
I feel like it came from a place of mutual insecurity where we lit up. Anytime anybody from like Smosh side talked to us, we were like, oh yes, yeah. Like,
It's so funny how that is the perception, because I was I was in the same boat where it felt like y'all were like the learned kids at school, like the straight students who like know all the answers, and we're just like tossed in the corner making noise, and we're like the bad kids, and we're like, we don't know anything. We just like have Nerf guns.
So I do remember one point where Pauly Shore showed up at the office. And I think we could all agree that in the shadow of Pauly Shore, we were, then we were all equal.
We were humbled as one.
I don't know if you were there, but Jason Mewes wandered in one time.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
we were started playing Call of Duty with us.
We were. Well, wasn't it? It was Grand Theft Auto.
I thought he played.
We were filming
GTA.
Grand Theft Smosh, and Jason Mewes just walked in because he knew that people were playing video games and just didn't know we were filming and just started like talking to us and hanging out. And we're like, do you want to jump on?
Man, what a weird time. I think that's also part of it. We were all in this soup, this primordial soup of like nobody really knew what was up completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also started at a time where like the internet currency of like whatever you call it, whether it's like followers or viewers or clout or whatever you call it, was like, it wasn't a thing then as much as it is now. Like, I think we're just coming into a thing where we're like, whoa, we have an audience. This is cool. Don't know exactly what that means. But now there's a full understanding of what that means, whether it's like a successful career, monetization, all these terms that were like left for like the executives back then, like everybody knows now. Like if you're starting as a content creator, you know it day one today. And that's a huge difference and so much pressure, I feel like, on people who just want to make this stuff for fun, which essentially we all got to do.
Did you guys ever do YouTube certifications?
No.
No.
Oh, wait, yes. I had to do that because I wanted to shoot something at the YouTube space.
Yeah, you had to get it at the space.
Yeah. I think I did one course and then I was like, this is a great idea. I should do the whole thing. And I never did.
We used to do them every single year. And and it's what you're saying, Mari. Now it's like, the kids come out of the womb and they're like, I'm YouTube certified. I'm like, we were doing that. We were taking the tests and we had to like pass the tests. But now, I think it's just it's part of the vernacular too.
Yeah, it's wild.
I would say a big thing that's different today is obviously the social platforms that people can become, famous on for being able to talk about the content that they want to talk about. Looking at something like TikTok that is essentially disrupting the ecosystem of social media, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But, there's new content creators that I didn't follow on YouTube, but, they'll cover, video game news or just different like stuff from the day that I would have missed. And it just like popping up in my feed. And I get that, 15 seconds of information. They were a great personality and awesome. And I feel like they have to work hard and do even more, but they're getting so much less than we got at the time. Because, your following count, your subscriber count, it like almost doesn't equate views or the amount of work that you have to do even to put up just consistently 4 pieces of content a day, every single day and then live streaming and then putting that up somewhere. So I think having this new platform that is, disrupting an ecosystem is in fact making it more difficult for them because there's no money on TikTok. There's no money.
I think what you're saying is kind of ties into something that I wanted to point out to my answer is just content saturation. There's just so much more content now than when we were starting out that it's harder. Yeah. It gets harder and harder to make your content stand out above the rest. And also, like, it's so many people trying different new things at once that it's harder to do a new thing. Like when we first started, in addition to the personalities, which I think is a big thing, some of you guys touched on, but we also like there was no YouTube tutorial I could watch to set up my Premiere workflow. It was just like I remember learning about multicam in when I was in college, and I'm like, okay, what if we set up a multicam with the gameplay, or if it was computers, each of our gameplays picture in picture, and it's like, can I multicam all this together and like create? And I won't say we were the first people to do it, but if there were if there were other people doing it, they didn't have a tutorial where I could just go and watch their workflow and set everything up. It was like, okay, I'm going to start from scratch and see if I can set this up and see if we can make something that looks, that allows us to see, our faces and also when we're playing and be able to quickly switch like to there when something happens on the screen. And I think I think finding a formula like that is infinitely harder when people have been, putting out so much content and so many different formulas trying to find, what works and what people like.
I think hearing that and hearing like all the discussions, it sounds like one of the big things was in the beginning when we were doing it, it was more of a matter of like figuring out how to do it, whether that was trying or not trying. And now it's figuring out how to be different and how to stand out. And I think those are like the two big distinctions right now.
To what you're saying too, with traditional media, television, film, there used to be a barrier to entry to getting on the platform, right? And then YouTube opened those floodgates and said, here's a platform, anybody can be on it. But there was still the barrier of entry to how good your product looks and how good your product is made. And that came down to like tech or know-how. But now I think we're even past that point where everybody has a camera on their phone that's better than what you can get a lav off Amazon for $20. Like we're removing those barriers, and it's flooding the market.
And now AI can just film it and edit it.
Oh my gosh.
You, so get ready for that one.
It's crazy because it sets up this pressure of like, we're giving you all the tools and all the information. Now you can't fail. And the pressure of, okay, I did all those things, but it's still failing. Like that must be so just
heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Disheartening. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it was there was a ignorance is bliss type of attitude back then where it was just like, it really was just throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. And when it does, we're like, oh, it's stuck, you know? And it's
I guess we'll do more of this. Yeah.
Now you put your heart and soul into something that gets 2,000 views.
Yeah.
But that's like great, maybe.
Yeah. And there used to be like this window, I feel like maybe 2016 to 2018, where there was this understanding of the algorithm, whether it was watch time or it was your thumbnail needs to be this certain way. Like there were kind of these best practices that I felt like we could tap into. That I don't really know what that is at this point.
It's whatever Mr. Beast does.
Yeah.
That's the industry standard. Whatever he comes up with next, that is how it will change.
Went from best practices to beast practices.
Yes.
That's good.
I like
what a note.
Dude, if he offered a
Beast
course,
practices.
like a master class called Beast Practices, it would
He'd make so much more money. We know some people that work for him. Let's hit him up. With that said, a good topic to start. We got a little nostalgic, what it was like to work in the same office a bit. I actually want to tap more into that. But I do want to find out, as I look around this room, if anyone has died here on this particular topic.
Streaming in 360p with muffled audio, you notice the terrible, sad, dead body of Joven.
Oh, death of the day.
No.
But I'm hosting.
Oh, wait, that's too bad because I pinpointed Joven.
Yeah, because I said the same thing twice.
I thought it was Joven
you knew
too.
that.
Because there was a point where Joven started talking, and I'm like, I feel like this is him. He's only saying what he needs to say here because he's trying to fit in the phrase.
I'm dead and cannot speak. I will let you guys take over.
I have an accusation. I heard Mari say it was the Wild West.
Wild West.
And that stood out to me. Yes, because
Wild
Will
West.
Smith, Wild West.
Well, she's a big fan of the feature film.
West. I don't know that I've ever heard Mari describe something as the Wild West until just now, and it stuck out to me.
That's strange, Lizacorn. I live in the Wild West right now.
You do. That's true. True. Shoot. And you were a big Red Dead fan.
Yeah. I feel like I use that vernacular all the time.
Well, I still accuse you.
Well, I accuse you, Mr. Content Saturation. Sorry, who made you CEO? I've never heard you say that by any means. What is this content saturation you're talking about?
Mari, I have an extensive vocabulary. It's not my fault that your tiny brain cannot handle my words.
Elise, just in case if you haven't figured it out, we start to yell at each other for things we say that we've never heard before. So this is going to be normal.
I feel like I'm going to see some like deep dark grudges brought up during.
Elise, what do you think? Do you have any accusations? Are you
I don't
on
know,
one
'cause
side or the other this?
I thought it was Joven, so I wasn't even preparing
For disrupting the ecosystem, because that's what I have in my notes. He said it twice.
I will never, ever say the killing phrase twice.
I'm gonna go Mari on this one, but I don't think Wild West. I mean,
What do you
know.
believe is the phrase that slays?
I didn't pick out. Maybe phrase that slays is the phrase. I didn't pick out any
Phrase that-
particular phrase.
Paco's gonna do that.
Which
one
you
day.
don't need a reason either. Sometimes we have no rhyme or reason as to why we picked the
We're
killers.
just mad at someone.
Yeah, we're just like, I just want to pick you today.
But
So
I need to I need to listen going forward for the phrase. I need to be more on top of that.
You do have to vote someone. I don't know. Have we ever
She
had
did.
an abstain? Oh, she.
No,
oh,
she
voted.
she's
I
voting
think
Mari.
Yeah.
I'll
Oh, yeah,
go
that's true.
Mari.
Amari, you have two rebuttals or two accusations against you. Would you like to rebuttal?
Yeah, my rebuttal is the landscape was the Wild West. I feel like I use that term all the time. I don't really have a rebuttal. What can I say? I don't know.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong, people.
She is not wrong, but I still don't think it's a phrase she would use. And my rebuttal is, I watched a YouTube video about content saturation like last night, and that's why I
changed
used
my
that phrase.
accusation.
Really? You can do that after
You can do
rebuttals.
that,
It's
yeah.
allowed.
Can I? Oh, it's laser
Yeah.
cord.
Okay. Well, now I have 2 votes against me. Here's this.
Are these the final votes after rebuttals?
I know
I
for
still
a
vote for
fact
Mari.
he was playing Tears of the Kingdom last night. So he couldn't have been watching the video about content
I
saturation.
was. Oh, that's so funny. I was capturing stuff for Mari, so I wasn't actively playing. I was capturing stuff for a video we're doing, and I was listening to the thing. Dang. Wait, did you actually see me online, or did you?
No.
'Cause I was. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. I was doing capture and listening to a video, so your accusation is 100% correct, but I was okay. Yeah.
I think it was so we got those votes and just my little ghostly vote in with very little logic behind it, but I do think it was Mari. There I don't have a phrase, but I threw her in first, and how she started, she was able to kind of like get to there a little bit faster. I think it's because she knew what she needed to talk about.
Wild West.
When I roll into the Wild West.
I feel like
All
that
right.
movie deserves a
Lost your damn
rewatch.
mind
It
in the
doesn't.
West.
So we have our guesses. It looks like there's 2 votes against me, which means I am dead. I have been burnt at the stake.
Oh no.
It's a witch. And now, producer Paco, go ahead and reveal who the killer was.
The killer this round was, in fact, Mari.
I knew it!
What's the
And
phrase Wild
what?
West?
Wild
What was the
West.
phrase that slays?
Textbook on how to do it. It was the Wild West. Like, we didn't really know what.
I am the king of picking out.
Yeah, you're that's
detecting
really good
kill
because
print,
I
the
slid it
phrase.
in there saying like we had no rule books. We had, I slid in a few other analogies, but
It was good. It was a good slide in. Not quite good enough to escape my detection.
Thank you for watching this video here on YouTube, but also big thank you to all the people here on the side who are part of the Patreon family here on OGSoG. If you would like to join this and have your name here, go ahead and click that link down below where you can watch extended videos on Wednesdays and also the full video version of the podcast. So go, just click the link, see if you like what's there. Give it a little tickle.